Hello everyone. So the purpose of making this video is to present about the e-portfolio that I have prepared in the Padlet for the subject of Law of Association and Company Part 1 that have been taught by Dr. Hartini and Prof. Zuhaira. So first, let me start with the introduction of myself. As you can see here, my name is Siti Rundana Hamid binti Abdul Halim with metric number 068710. I was born on 14 October 2000 in Taipei, Perak, and then I start my study during my primary school in Sekolah Kebangsaan Seksyen 20, and then for secondary school I studied at Sekolah Menengah Tahfiz Az-Zuhdi, and then after I finished SPM I was taking diploma at International Islamic College in Diploma in Enforcement Management. So my mission in life is to not merely survive but to thrive, and my mission is to strive for progress, not perfection. For the weekly activities that I have learned in this semester for this subject, as you can see here, for week 1 is the introductory class where we learn about the introduction to business entities in Malaysia, and then in week 2, we learn about the formation of partnership and how the partnership agreement is formed in accordance with Part 2 of the Partnership Act 1961. And for week 2, the tutorial was done in Kelit, whereby it required a group discussion on the partnership relation based on the movies provided as a reference for us. And then in week 3, we learned about the liability of the firm to third parties as regard to Part 3 of the Partnership Act 1961. And then our lecturers, Dr. Tini, have assigned a task as part of the weekly tutorial to draft our firm profile, and we need to submit it in the clip for her to give mark for our firm profile that we have prepared. So in week 4, we learn about the relation of partner with one another as according to Part 4 of the Partnership Act 1961, and I was able to learn how the relationship between partners exists, their duties and obligation, and how the partnership can be dissolved. And then the tutorial for week 4 was also made in Kelit with a problematic based question to be answered by group based on the topic under section 3 and 4 of the Partnership Act 1961. In week 5, a tutorial on the topic of liability of partners to third parties was given in Kelit based on the movie as our reference as the previous tutorial in week 2, where the students are required to discuss the concept of unlimited liability in partnership, which resulted to the dissolution of the firm. And continue with the activities in week 6. The students are required to attend an online forum that was done online by Mr. Ahmad Muaz Muhammad Nawawi to learn how to draft a partnership agreement. And then we are able to learn on the dissolution of partnership in accordance with Part 5 of the Partnership Act 1961. Continue with the activities in week 7 until 9. I was able to learn about the introduction to company law, where the students have learned about the type of company, duties of promoters, and pre-incorporation contracts, and then learn about how the company is governed according to Companies Act 2016, which laid down all the requirements for the classification of promoters of the company and its duties, and learn the liability of a company and individual due to the incorporation of company, and also the topic of the constitution of a company in terms of its legal position and its effect according to Companies Act 2016. Lastly, the activities that we have done in week 10 until 11 is to learn about the effect of the incorporation of company, and this topic being the last topic of this subject, is essential for the student to know about the effect of incorporation of a company, especially in terms of its liability, whereas it separates the liability of the company from its owner, which is the director. However, if the Directors Act falls within the judicial exceptions, the purpose of lifting the veil is to identify whether the wrongful act is done by the director himself or the company in order to identify the liability. As you can see here, there are two activities that we are required to do in group, which is first is to draft the firm profile for the purpose of our business. So for my group, we had started our discussion to draft our firm profile on week 3, and we assign our task and position for our business, where we have decided to do a F&B business with a name of Do and Go. And then based on the firm profile that we have done on week 3, we have started to draft our partnership agreement for our business, and the discussion on our group project, which is to draft the partnership agreement, started in week 7. And as you can see here is the partnership agreement for our business that we have done. So based on the activities that I have done throughout this semester for this subject, I have learned that partnership and companies are two different entities, where a business formed by way of partnership is known as a firm and is governed by Partnership Act 1961. Meanwhile, a business created as a company is governed by the Companies Act 2016. Other than that, I have also learned that to form a partnership, it is required to fulfill the three main elements of a partnership under Section 3, Clause 1 of the Partnership Act 1961, and such as the existence of contractual relation and the fact that the business is carried out with the shared intention of all partners, and the purpose of carrying out the business is to make a profit. Furthermore, from this subject, I had learned on how to draft a partnership agreement, and I believe that it will be useful for me in the future. And other than that, although our main focus in this subject is required us to focus mainly on the partnership, but in the second part of this subject, next semester we'll cover in detail on company law. However, our lecturer, which is Prof. Zuhairah and Dr. Hartini, have taught us a few topics on the introductory part of the company law that I believe to be very useful for us in the examination and to prepare for the second part of this subject in next semester. I think that's all from me for the presentation on e-portfolio for the subject of Law of Association and Company Part 1. Thank you for listening.